Chad Callender, who's the executive director of Meals on Wheels. Chad, it's been a while since you and I've been able to get together because of all of these COVID restrictions, but we've had a great partnership between the food bank and Meals on Wheels. And we can talk about that in a bit, but I'd really like to know how Meals on Wheels is doing, how they've been handling it all and what's going on.
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, I think like a lot of organizations who are dealing with food security, we are an essential service. Uh, I think a lot of people at the beginning and throughout this, when I speak about Meals on Wheels, just assume that we would have trouble getting volunteers because of the related, pandemic and restrictions. But
Yeah.
actually, we've had more volunteers than we've needed. The community has really stepped up to help us. So that has been absolutely amazing, as well as the outpouring of support we receive from the community in terms of donated PPE, donations, and all that kind of stuff. So we're doing fairly well. I think for us, though, our biggest concern is, those people that we serve and the isolation that they face. And
Yeah.
we've tried really hard to, include letters with their meals or extra kind of treats and gifts and things that we can kind of provide to uplift their spirits. But also letting them know what third parties are available if there's somebody that they need to talk to. But we've also seen a large increase, and it's been a concern for us, is the number of individuals that are becoming victims of things like scams and things like that related to COVID. We're seeing that fairly, I don't want to say fairly often, but more than usual with clients that we serve.
Yeah. You're headquartered in the big First St. Andrew's Church, right beside it, the building right beside it there on Queens Ave downtown. I know that some of the Wish to Be Home or winter shelter stuff is also going on over there as well. So do you have anything to do with that? Like, do you go over and see how they're doing, or do you have to share parking spots, or what happens there?
Yeah, so they just, I think they just started last week, if I remember correctly. And we have been in discussions with First St. Andrews just because they are our landlord. We actually, the house that we occupy is called Farquhar House, used to be the pastor's home. So we're right next door. So we have been sharing some resources and things, and we're kind of in initial discussions with them, but it's still very early stages. I think for them, they kind of got information last minute that they were going to be able to launch. So I think they have spent last week and this week trying to find their footing, but we're talking to them about just the ways that we can help, or if there's anything we can do to be good neighbors. But what we can say is that we're so happy to see that it's happening and that there is a place for those people to go during the winter. Because it's early days now, but come January and those colder months, it's going to be very essential.
Yeah, that's right. So for us as a food bank, I think many agencies had a similar story that, once COVID came and the pandemic started, actually a lot of volunteers came out, a lot of donations came in. And I think there was just this awareness in the community to get involved and volunteer or help or do whatever they can. Some have actually had to go through changes as a result of it. I know that we did as a food bank. Some were fairly substantial. Have you had to alter your operational, outside of just the restrictions and wearing masks and being careful where to go? How about the structure of Meals on Wheels? Have you changed any of that in light of what the future might be?
Yeah, like I think beyond the, we bring the meals out to the volunteers, which they used to come to our building before, beyond those kind of things, masks, delivering at a distance. I think one of the biggest changes for us actually, which really worked out for our clients, was we used to deliver Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and now we only deliver Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And that's mainly because after talking to our clients, we realized that a lot of them didn't even really want their meals heated. They wanted to receive it chilled so that they could have it heated when it worked best for them. But also, they wanted to, maybe not have to wait at the door every single day for that person to come by. The schedule of every other day kind of worked better for them. So they didn't, it was less kind of that they had to worry about. And I should also say that anyone who does need their meal heated, we do provide that to them in case they can't do it themselves. But that was one of the bigger ones. And our clients really do enjoy that for the convenience factor, but also just it's kind of a less strain on their personal kind of time. But that too has also kind of limited the social interactions a little bit as well. I'd say that's probably one of the bigger things. But we've also seen a large increase in those who are needing kind of crisis and compassionate. So we've expanded that program. And that's really for people who find themselves in emergency situations and need food right away that we have on hand and can deliver to them. And thanks to our partnership with the London Food Bank, that's actually one of the programs that they help us that we're able to provide. Because we've seen, that program used to be, I think it's probably 60 to 70% higher than it used to be. And that has partially to do with those scams that we were talking about earlier before, but also, just an awareness in the community that we have that service available for people to provide a week of meals in emergency situations.
And scams are tough, especially for the elderly, right? It's hard for them to know sometimes what's going on there when people contact them on the phone or on the internet. It can be difficult, but with you, they have that trust arrangement. So that must be helpful to them. You're such a great organization. And I know, because since I saw you last, I've been out on 2 runs out to folks. And I've just been amazed at the volunteers, the drivers. They take the time, they know everybody that they're going to visit, and they will speak to them even with the mask on outside the door. And it was a wonderful thing to see. And in a time in which everybody's social distancing, the fact that you folks have been able to somehow make that work, that exchange of the food, I think, you leave it at the door, back up, people come and get it or whatever it is. But all the conversation that happens during those moments has been a beautiful thing. And they all know the drivers by their first name and everything. It's really quite effective what you have set up there. And I'm sure you know that.
And it's something that we're very proud of. I mean, when I first started at Meals on Wheels, one of the things that blew me away the most, beyond the volume of the service and things that we do, was that the average volunteer lasts with Meals on Wheels for 7 years. And I think that just speaks to what we do, but also, it's an experience when you become a volunteer with us that you really get to see what you're doing firsthand, because you're delivering those meals to the clients. And as you said, you get to know people, and, that's great for a social interaction standpoint, but it's also great for a number of other reasons. Like, they can notice if something may be off with the client and report back to us, and then we can talk to their emergency contact. Or if, someone's not answering, we can follow up and do our emergency non-home procedure. And the volunteer, is very helpful with that process. So it's a really kind of heartwarming thing to see. And as you've mentioned, even more heartwarming to see that even with the restrictions that have been created, our volunteers have adapted by, just stepping back a little bit.
It's pretty funny. I went out with one fellow that I know who did a run. So I asked him if I could join him, and I did, but I filmed for probably about 20 minutes. And he was talking away about all the clients and everything else. And then I came back and I had to edit it. And I couldn't edit any of it. Like, I couldn't take any of it out. It was just so interesting listening to him as he was talking. He was talking to me about why he does it. He was talking to me about the clients themselves and how he's known them over the years. He's been with you for quite a while. But it was hilarious. I couldn't really edit it out because I felt it was all so vital and compassionate just in the way it was. So I think you're very fortunate, Chad, to have an army of people that are like that. It's great. Can we talk a bit about just I know when the food bank, I think it was a couple of years ago, Feed Ontario came out with this report about how the number of seniors in food insecurity was really growing. We as a board at the food bank, we sat down and trying to figure out how are we going to handle that, because seniors would have a difficult time coming to this is before COVID, would have a difficult time coming to the food bank and all that stuff. And then, just the subject of Meals on Wheels came up, and it was just such a natural fit. Because tons of the people that donate to us are seniors. I'm sure that's true for you as well. But the ability to reach them was something we were really constrained about. We actually didn't have that potential. But the partnership with you opened up a whole new field for us, where we felt we were able to care for people better because of Meals on Wheels. As far as the seniors population goes, how are you feeling about that, about how they're feeling about it? Like, I realize it's helpful to be able to get the food to them, but I guess if I were to be honest about me, I sometimes feel a bit of despair about COVID. It's hard. You're maybe the same. Sometimes I drag myself to bed and I get up in the morning, it's hard. And I think everybody in London is going through the same thing. But to your knowledge, do you think this hit seniors in a harder way?
I think so. I think for a lot of us, we're fortunate that we have certain distractions. I mean, we can go to work. We do phone calls with friends. I mean, they may not have the technology or the ability to do that. As much as we are socially isolated, seniors are even more so. I mean, they're just maybe watching on the news what's happening and just told to stay at home and inside, and that's all they really have. And yeah, I'm sure they have some activities to keep them busy, but I can imagine that the mental health effects that this is going to have on them is going to be long lasting. And even we see it in the clients that we're speaking to. Like I can say from, before COVID to after COVID, the amount of time we spend on the phone speaking to our seniors, like they want to talk to somebody because there's just such limited social interaction for them. And I think, beyond that, the mental health part of it, I think there's the other COVID effects that I think a lot of them are going to start to see, and we're seeing too, but it'll have an effect on them because their income is not growing necessarily like ours is. Theirs is kind of stagnant, and food and costs are increasing, other costs are increasing, and it's I think pushing more and more in their wallets. And case in point to that is the food box program that we partner with you on. We've seen a steady increase of that even before COVID. But now in the past couple of years, we've seen 20 to 25% more people accessing those food boxes. And they're specifically for people who physically cannot get to the food bank, which is in most cases seniors or those with disabilities. So I think there's a number of concerns for them that way. And, I remember actually speaking to one of our clients at one point, and his question to me, which of course I couldn't answer, was, well, when does this end? When does this stop? When do we go back to the way things were? And, you can't give it a definitive answer. And it to be quite frank, it broke my heart.
Yeah. I understand. I think for me, I've spoken with a few who couldn't see their grandkids, right? Because they say their grandkids from the States or something else. And for seniors, that's a really important thing that they do. They know they fulfill a vital role in the family about that. But for others, it was one woman, her husband went into hospital and didn't come back out and was in there, but she couldn't get in to see him. And I think that for seniors, that they're so used to integrating themselves within family life, community life, church life, whatever it is, and suddenly to not be able to have that when they're already feeling a bit isolated. I've just found that really difficult. I know some of them, and I feel terrible for them. And I know that Meals on Wheels is that kind of contact with community that they get. But can you tell me a bit about what happens? Just tell me what happens. The driver comes to the door, and what happens if nobody answers?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. And it's actually, it's one of the key parts of our service. Of course, the food and the nutrition is really important, but it's that safety check-in. And so typically, if somebody does not answer the door, the driver is instructed to call us right away. Mm-hmm. And then we typically try to call the client, and sometimes they just didn't hear the door, TV was too loud, what have you. And then they come to the door, get the meal. In the cases where they don't, we have what we call a non-home procedure that we follow. And essentially we keep trying to call the person. We let the driver go on because they might have other routes they have to deliver, but we kind of take it in at that point.
Yeah.
After a certain amount of time, if we can't reach them, we'll follow up with an emergency contact. Even after that, if we still haven't been able to get a hold of them or figure out what's going on, we will have London Police do a wellness check to see if the individual is in need of assistance. We've seen instances where our volunteer can hear the person screaming through the door that they've fallen. And we've had to go inside and call an ambulance. We'll do whatever is necessary, but that's kind of a key part of our service.
So somebody falls down, saying breaks a hip or has an injury, that must be tough. But they would probably be able to yell out to somebody who's at the door, right? And then you would call in some help to help them with that, correct?
Yeah, the one story I actually share that's very often is the one gentleman volunteer. He recognized that a client of ours, he got to her door and their newspaper was still out, and it was, kind of a bit later in the day, and it came in the morning. And she always said that she loves doing the crossword puzzle and was always done it first thing in the morning. And he actually, even though we encouraged them to call us, he followed up with the super and went down and said, "Hey, can you open the door? I'm afraid that something might be wrong," after knocking. And he had fallen, that she unfortunately had suffered a stroke and was able to call an ambulance. And so it really got that process faster and was really able to help that individual. So just, we see things like that happen all the time. And it's why, obviously what we do is so important, and why our volunteers are so vital.
Yeah. On the 2 trips I was on, some of the people would say, yeah, I've been feeling kind of ill or whatever it is. And then this person encouraged them to phone a certain person, whatever it is. But what's great about it, I think, is maybe people think of, I know I was probably like this myself, but you think of Meals on Wheels as a kind of a delivery service of food, right? To go to people, but it's so much more. And it ends up in many ways just becoming an emergency service too, when people are in that situation. Let's say they can't phone or whatever it is. Meals on Wheels actually becomes a lifeline in that situation. And I think that kind of contact is really important. Feeding people is really important. But the fact that you're kind of caring for the whole person when something like that happens, I think that's awesome. Something I didn't know, and it would be interesting, and maybe you do, but I don't know if you ever compile stories like that, just about how many people actually were able to get better because Meals on Wheels had made that contact and plugged them into the right place. I think it's a fantastic thing.
Yeah, I mean, we survey our clients each year, and about 90% say to us that having the meals delivered physically and mentally helps them to feel better, even if it is only a couple of times a week. It's just the extra assistance. Caregivers know that it really helps, just alleviate some of the burden, because reality is people work. They can't necessarily be there for those loved ones every single day, and to know that someone's at least checking on them, daily to make sure that they're all right is an important thing. So
Yeah.
we will continue to do that. And we always encourage our clients, we may not have the service that you're looking for, but we are so well connected in this community, and
Exactly.
and pride ourselves on finding the service that you need to help you, whatever that may be.
That's really true. So you and I are talking at a time when Omicron has really made its presence felt. We don't know what's going to happen even tomorrow, but are you up for it?
You know what? We're always up for it, and we will always be here. And, I think, like a lot of organizations during COVID, things are going to happen, and we will shift however we need to make sure that we can deliver service. I remember when this first started, and I reached out to some of the higher ups related to our organization, our organization, but just kind of emergency contacts in the city, and said, are we an essential service? And they said, absolutely, 100% you will. So whatever it takes to run, we'll do it. And, I remember saying at the beginning, and it's true, if I have to go and deliver all the meals myself, we'll find a way no matter what. So, but I think the way our community responded last time, whatever this pandemic continues to throw at us, I believe and know our community will respond.
Yeah. I think that if somebody has it within their genes that they want to help, they're a helping person. That's what they want to do. In a very strange way, exhausted as they are because of COVID, this is when they really show up. These are the kind of moments that they live for. It's too bad that some of these moments last for 2 years, right? And it goes on and on and on.
Yeah.
But this is their moment. And I think they have really shown that. And you really have, Chad. I know that our partnership with you, with Meals on Wheels, has been one of the best things for us as a food bank. And I'm not trying to get you to say anything about the food bank that way, but you've also given us the sense that people that we weren't able to reach, we finally did. And it wasn't just a driver taking food up to that place. It's all these things we've been talking about here. These people are actually getting care from what you folks are doing. So I really thank you for that. I do thank you for showing up, and all of the volunteers that are there. And I guess during this coming year, all of us just have to keep working together and make it happen.
Yeah. And I, of course, have to thank, all of our staff and our volunteers and everybody who makes our services possible. I mean, we're talking about hundreds of people who make sure that Meals on Wheels takes off every single day. And, I'm just one person part of that team. And yes, we're so thankful for the food bank and their partnership. But, I think it kind of goes to show, as we're in the middle close to wrapping up the London Business Food Care Drive.
Yeah.
Sorry, I said that wrong. The Business Cares Food Drive.
Yeah.
How many organizations the food bank supports and makes sure, it gets out to those who need it, no matter what your age or gender or background, we're here to serve. So
yeah, that's awesome, Chad. Our partnership will continue on into this next year, but thanks so much for all what you've done, and to all of you and the volunteers and staff and others. Thank you. Thanks for all that you've done for the community.
And to you and all your team, Glenn, we really appreciate it.
Thanks.